The sun rose over the rocky landscape of Proxima Centauri, casting long shadows across the metallic domes of the Frontier Research Station. Jack Rivera stood at the observation window, watching the strange orange light filter through the thin atmosphere. After 3 years on this alien world, he still hadn't gotten used to the way the light made everything look slightly wrong. "Come on, boy. Time for our morning run," Jack said, turning to the large dog lying on a cushioned bed in the corner. Rex lifted his head, his ice-blue eyes catching the alien sunlight. He wasn't an ordinary dog. His thick, silver-gray coat had been genetically enhanced to protect against radiation, and his muscles were denser than any Earth canine's. His intelligence, too, had been boosted, not enough to speak, but enough to understand complex commands and situations that would baffle normal dogs. Rex stretched and padded over to Jack, who rubbed the spot between his ears. The dog pushed his head against Jack's hand, a familiar gesture that always reminded Jack of the day they'd met. It had been during the disaster at Outpost 7. Jack had been part of the rescue team sent in after the pressure dome collapsed. He'd found Rex as a puppy, the sole survivor of the station's breeding program, trapped in a sealed lab compartment. Everyone else had died. Jack couldn't leave him behind. "Let's go before Dr. Powell starts complaining about us wasting oxygen again," Jack said, grabbing Rex's special atmosphere mask. The mask was necessary for their outside excursions. The air was breathable for humans with some discomfort, but dogs needed the extra oxygen boost. They made their way through the station's corridors, passing scientists and technicians who nodded at Jack and smiled at Rex. The dog had become the unofficial mascot of the station, boosting morale in this isolated outpost 20 light-years from Earth. Outside, they followed their usual path, a 5-kilometer loop around the station's perimeter. Rex ran ahead, his powerful legs easily navigating the rough terrain. Jack kept a steady pace, his old marine training still serving him well. The exercise helped clear his mind, preparing him for another day of studying alien microorganisms. They were halfway through their run when Jack's comm unit buzzed. He slowed to a walk and touched the device on his wrist. "Rivera here." "Jack, get back to the station now." It was Dr. Ellie Martinez, the station's director. Her voice was tight with excitement or anxiety. Jack couldn't tell which. "What's going on?" "First contact, Jack. The Futuristic have finally responded to our signals. They're sending a delegation, ETA 16 hours. Jack felt his heart rate spike, and not from the run. The Futuristic were an alien civilization detected 2 years ago in a nearby star system. Until now, communication had been limited to simple mathematical exchanges and basic language primers. "I'll be right there. Do you need me to prep the biology lab?" "Yes, and Jack." She hesitated. "The preliminary messages indicate they have severe concerns about biological contamination. They're practically paranoid about it." Jack glanced at Rex, who had circled back and was watching him with those intelligent eyes. "Understood. I'll keep Rex away from the contact zone." "Not just away, Jack. The Futuristic can't know about him at all. At least not initially. Their language doesn't even have a concept for companion animals. We don't want to risk the first interspecies diplomatic incident over your dog." Jack frowned but nodded, though Martinez couldn't see it. "Understood. We'll be discreet." He ended the call and looked down at Rex, who tilted his head questioningly. "Looks like we're about to meet some new friends, boy. But you'll have to stay behind the scenes for a while." He scratched Rex's ear through the mask. "Don't worry, it won't be for long. After all, who could possibly have a problem with you?" Rex wagged his tail and pressed against Jack's leg as they turned back toward the station, unaware that the approaching visitors would soon view him not as the loyal companion he was, but as something they had never encountered before, a beast to be feared. The day of first contact arrived with a mix of excitement and tension at the Frontier Research Station. Jack had spent the night with Rex in his private quarters, explaining to the dog that he would need to stay quiet and hidden when the aliens came. I know you don't like being locked up, buddy, Jack said as he filled Rex's water bowl. But it's just for a few days until the Vithuri get used to us humans. Rex whined softly but sat obediently on his bed. Jack scratched behind his ears one last time before heading to the main airlock where the rest of the team waited. Dr. Ellie Martinez paced back and forth, checking her tablet every few seconds. Jack, good. You're here. The Vithuri ship will dock in 10 minutes. Remember the briefing. No sudden movements, no showing teeth when you smile, and absolutely no touching. Jack nodded. I've read the cultural notes. They're big on personal space. Bigger than big, said Dr. Powell, the station's biologist. Their entire society is built around avoiding contamination. They evolved from a species that suffered multiple plagues. It shaped their development. The station's alert system chimed, and everyone straightened up. Through the large observation window, they watched as the alien ship approached. It was smooth and oval-shaped, with no visible seams or windows, its surface shimmering with an iridescent purple-green color that reminded Jack of beetle shells. The docking process was slow and careful. When the airlocks finally connected and the pressure equalized, the inner door slid open. The Vithuri entered one by one. Jack had seen images from the long-distance communications, but nothing prepared him for seeing them in person. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, with segmented bodies covered in hard, shiny exoskeletons. Each had 4 arms and 2 legs, all thin and jointed like a grasshopper's. Their heads were dominated by large compound eyes that seemed to catch and reflect every bit of light in the room. The lead alien stepped forward. It wore what looked like additional armor plates decorated with swirling patterns. A small device on its chest glowed as it spoke, a series of clicks and whistles that the translation system converted to English. I am Ambassador Sklar of the Vithuri Collective. We greet the human species with cautious optimism for mutual benefit. Dr. Martinez stepped forward, careful to maintain the recommended 3-meter distance. Ambassador Sklar, I am Dr. Ellie Martinez, director of this research station. On behalf of humanity, we welcome you and your delegation to Proxima Centauri. Jack watched as the formal greetings continued. He noticed how the aliens constantly scanned the room, their compound eyes missing nothing. They carried small devices that they occasionally pointed at different surfaces. They're checking for biological contaminants, Dr. Powell whispered to Jack. Their suits are probably sealed systems, like our old space suits. The initial meeting lasted 2 hours. The humans explained their research mission, and the Vithuri shared limited information about their society. Jack found himself assigned to show the aliens the xenobiology lab, where he worked studying the planet's simple life forms. As the meeting ended, Ambassador Sklar made an announcement. We propose a joint scientific expedition to the Mineral Valley 50 kilometers from this location. Our scans show unusual formations that could benefit both our peoples. Dr. Martinez looked pleased. We would be honored. I'll assign a team immediately. I volunteer, Jack said quickly. A week away would be hard with Rex, but staying at the station with curious aliens wandering around would be even riskier for keeping his dog hidden. The ambassador's eyes seemed to focus on Jack. The human called Rivera will join the expedition. His knowledge of local biology will be valuable. As the meeting broke up, Jack hurried back to his quarters. Rex greeted him with a wagging tail and eager eyes. Good news and bad news, boy, Jack said, kneeling to ruffle the dog's thick fur. We're going on a field trip, but you'll have to be the best-behaved, quietest dog in the galaxy. Rex tilted his head, those intelligent eyes seeming to understand more than a dog should. Jack didn't know yet how difficult keeping Rex hidden would prove to be, or how terribly wrong things would go when the aliens finally discovered his secret. The morning of the expedition came quickly. Jack loaded his equipment into the human rover, a rugged 6-wheeled vehicle designed for the rough terrain of Proxima Centauri. While no one was looking, he added extra supplies for Rex. Food, water, and a special air filter that would keep the dog comfortable in the planet's thin atmosphere. Dr. Olivia Foster, the team's geologist, approached as Jack closed the storage compartment. "All set?" she asked, checking items off on her tablet. "The Vtheri are very precise about departure times." "Just about," Jack said. "Where's Dr. Wright?" "Alan's loading his plant sampling gear. He's hoping to find new species in the valley." Jack nodded and glanced toward the Vtheri vehicle. Unlike the human rover, which looked like a large, bulky truck, the alien transport was sleek and moved on what looked like a cushion of air rather than wheels. 3 Vtheri scientists were loading equipment into it, their movements quick and precise. An hour later, both vehicles were moving across the rocky plain. The humans followed behind the Vtheri transport, maintaining radio contact. Inside the rover, Jack, Olivia, and Alan discussed the upcoming work. "I still can't believe we're the first humans to work directly with an alien species," Alan said, his eyes bright with excitement. "This could change everything we know about biology." "If they actually share anything useful," Olivia replied. "They seem pretty guarded about their technology." Jack stayed quiet, thinking about Rex hidden in the sleeping compartment behind them. He had given the dog a mild sedative for the journey, something to keep him calm and quiet until they reached their destination. The journey took 6 hours, across increasingly rough terrain. The valley, when they finally reached it, was more impressive than the satellite images had suggested. Steep walls of dark rock surrounded a winding canyon floor, where patches of the planet's strange red vegetation grew around what appeared to be dried river channels. They set up camp at the valley entrance, the Vtheri habitat on one side, the human tents and rover on the other, separated by about 50 meters. After the aliens retreated into their sealed environment for their rest cycle, Jack finally had a chance to check on Rex. The dog was awake and alert, looking at Jack with accusing eyes when he opened the compartment. "I know, boy, I'm sorry," Jack whispered, letting Rex out to stretch his legs inside the rover. "But you'll get plenty of exercise tonight when everyone's asleep." Later that night, after Olivia and Alan had gone to sleep in their tents, Jack carefully let Rex out of the rover. The dog immediately began sniffing around the camp, his enhanced senses taking in everything. Jack kept a close eye on the Vtheri habitat, which showed no signs of activity. "Quick patrol around the perimeter, then back inside," Jack told Rex quietly. They walked together in the planet's dim moonlight. The air was cold, and Jack's breath formed small clouds in front of his face. Rex seemed energized by the fresh air, his movements eager but controlled. Suddenly, Rex froze. His ears perked up, and he turned toward a dark section of the valley wall. "What is it, boy?" Jack whispered, instantly alert. Years of working with Rex had taught him to trust the dog's instincts. Rex growled softly, a sound Jack rarely heard from him. The fur along his back stood up slightly. Jack peered into the darkness but saw nothing. He pulled out a small light and shined it toward where Rex was looking. The beam caught nothing unusual, just rocks and patches of the red moss-like growth. "Let's head back," Jack said uneasily. Back in the rover, Rex remained restless, occasionally looking toward the wall of the valley and making small whining sounds. The next morning, the scientists began their work. The Vtheri emerged from their habitat wearing what looked like even more protective gear than before. "Our instruments detected unusual energy readings during the night cycle," one of them said through the translator. "Possible biological activity of concern." Jack felt a chill that had nothing to do with the morning cold. Had they somehow detected Rex, or was there something else out there in the valley, something none of them knew about yet? As the day progressed, Jack's unease grew. Rex had sensed something, and now the Vtheri instruments were picking up strange readings. Something was wrong in this valley, and they were about to find out what. 3 days passed in the valley. The Vtheri continued their mineral studies while the humans collected samples of the local plant life and soil. Jack grew more worried each day. Rex was becoming harder to keep hidden, growing restless in the cramped rover. Each night, Jack let him out for brief exercise, And each time, Rex stared at the same section of the valley wall, growling softly. On the fourth night, Jack sat with Olivia and Alan around a small heating unit outside their tents. The Vithuri had retreated to their habitat hours ago. "Have you noticed how jumpy the aliens are getting?" Alan asked, keeping his voice low. "They'd nearly panicked when I approached their work site today." Olivia nodded. "Their lead scientist told me their sensors keep detecting unknown biological signatures. They're convinced something dangerous is nearby." Jack thought of Rex, still hidden in the rover. Was it possible the Vithuri were somehow detecting his dog? Or was Rex sensing the same thing that worried the aliens? "Maybe we should consider heading back to the station," Jack suggested. Alan shook his head. "Not a chance. This is the scientific opportunity of a lifetime." Later that night, when the others were asleep, Jack released Rex from the rover. The dog immediately tensed, looking toward the valley wall again. "What is it, boy?" Jack whispered. "Show me." Rex moved slowly toward the wall, Jack following close behind. The night was darker than usual, with clouds covering the small moon. Jack kept his light pointed at the ground, afraid the Vithuri might see it from their habitat. Suddenly, a loud alarm blared from the alien structure. Red lights flashed around its perimeter. Jack froze. Had they been spotted? But the Vithuri weren't rushing toward him and Rex. Instead, they were gathering at the far side of their habitat, pointing instruments at something Jack couldn't see. A crash echoed through the valley. Jack heard a high-pitched sound he recognized as a Vithuri distress call. Something was attacking their habitat. "Come on, Rex." Jack ran toward the commotion, the dog racing ahead of him. As they approached, Jack saw a large, dark shape moving against the side of the Vithuri habitat. It was at least twice his height, with a long body and multiple limbs that moved in a fluid, predatory way. The creature had broken through a section of the habitat wall, and Jack could hear the aliens inside making alarm calls. Without hesitation, Rex charged forward, barking fiercely. The creature turned, revealing glowing eyes and a mouth full of sharp teeth. It hissed at Rex, but backed away from the damaged habitat. Jack called to Alan and Olivia, who were now awake and rushing from their tents. "Something's attacking the Vithuri. Get the emergency weapons." Rex continued to bark and circle the creature, keeping it at bay. Jack could see the dog's training kicking in. He wasn't attacking, just containing the threat until help arrived. The creature lunged suddenly, not at Rex, but at a Vithuri who had emerged from the damaged section. Rex leaped between them, his teeth bared. The creature swiped at him with a clawed limb, missing by inches. Olivia arrived with the pulse rifle from the rover's emergency kit. She fired a warning shot into the air. The loud noise startled the creature, and it backed away further. Rex continued his defensive barking, driving the creature toward the valley wall. With a final hiss, the predator turned and scurried up the rocky surface with surprising speed, disappearing into the darkness. Jack turned to check on the Vithuri and found them all staring at Rex. Their translator devices were silent, but their body language, antennae rigid, upper limbs raised, showed clear alarm. One of the aliens, the lead scientist named Kavul, finally spoke. "What is this creature? How did it come to be here?" Before Jack could answer, another Vithuri pointed at Rex. "It is another predator. It must have attracted the first one. The human has brought a dangerous beast among us." "No, you don't understand," Jack started to explain, but the Vithuri were backing away, their postures showing fear and anger. Rex, sensing the tension, moved to Jack's side, pressing against his leg in a protective stance. This only seemed to frighten the aliens more. "That's not just any animal," Jack said firmly. "This is Rex, and he just saved your lives." The rest of the night was filled with tense arguments. Jack tried to explain what a dog was, what pets were, and why he had brought Rex on the expedition. The Vithuri listened, but did not seem to understand. "This creature is under your control?" asked Kavul, keeping a safe distance from Rex. "He's not just under my control. He's my companion," Jack said. "Where I go, he goes. He's trained to protect and help." Olivia stepped in. "The animal saved your scientist, Zrivik. Without him, that predator would have attacked all of us." The Vitheri talked among themselves in their clicking language, their translator devices turned off. Jack could tell from their movements that they were upset. Finally, Tuvol turned back to the humans. "We must report this to our leaders. The presence of an unknown predator species and this," he pointed at Rex, "was not part of our agreement." "Rex is not a predator," Jack insisted. "He's domesticated. His ancestors were wolves, but dogs have lived with humans for thousands of years." But the Vitheri would not listen anymore. They retreated to repair their habitat, refusing further discussion. Jack, Olivia, and Alan returned to their tents, with Rex staying close to Jack. "They're really scared of him," Alan said, watching Rex lie down beside Jack. "It's like they've never seen anything like him before." "They probably haven't," Olivia replied. "Remember the briefing. Their planet doesn't have many mammals. Nothing like dogs or wolves." Jack petted Rex's head. "Get some sleep, everyone. We'll sort this out in the morning." But when morning came, the Vitheri habitat was sealed tight. No aliens emerged to continue their work. Jack tried calling them on the communication system but received only a brief message: "Stand by for instructions." By midday, Jack was worried. He decided to scout the area where the creature had disappeared, hoping to learn more about what had attacked them. "I'm taking Rex to check the valley wall," he told Olivia and Alan. "Keep trying to contact the Vitheri." Jack and Rex hiked to the spot where the creature had climbed the rocky wall. Rex sniffed around, his training as a tracking dog evident in his focused movements. He led Jack to a narrow crack in the valley wall, just wide enough for a person to squeeze through. "Good boy," Jack said, examining the opening. "Stay close to me." They entered the crack, which widened into a small tunnel. Rex went first, his enhanced sense of smell guiding them. The tunnel soon opened into a larger cave. Jack switched on his light and saw claw marks on the walls and floor. "This is definitely where it lives," he muttered. Rex suddenly tensed, growling softly. Jack turned his light toward the back of the cave and saw movement. The creature was there, crouched in a corner. In the better light, Jack could see it clearly for the first time. It had a sleek reptilian body with 6 legs and skin that seemed to shift colors to match its surroundings. Its head was flat with rows of teeth visible in its partly open mouth. Jack slowly backed away, pulling out his communication device to alert the others. But before he could call, he heard sounds from outside the cave, the distinctive clicking of Vitheri language. "They followed us," Jack whispered to Rex. "But why aren't they using their translators?" He peered back through the tunnel and saw 5 Vitheri approaching. They carried what looked like weapons, long tubes that glowed with blue energy. They weren't heading for the cave, however. They were tracking something else, moving in a pattern that Jack recognized as a hunting formation. With a shock, he realized they were looking for Rex. "They think you're as dangerous as that creature," Jack said to Rex. "We need to get back to warn Olivia and Alan." As they slipped out of the cave through another small opening, Jack heard a Vitheri shout. He glanced back and saw all 5 aliens pointing their weapons toward them. "Run, Rex!" Jack yelled. A blast of blue energy hit the rock near them. Rex bolted down the slope with Jack close behind. More energy blasts followed, striking the ground around them. Jack felt the heat of one pass close to his arm. They needed to get back to the camp, but the Vitheri were between them and their rover. Jack made a quick decision, directing Rex toward a different part of the valley. "We need to lead them away from that creature's cave," Jack panted as they ran, "and somehow make them understand you're not their enemy." But the aliens were gaining on them, their weapons ready. The hunt for what they believed was a dangerous beast had begun. Jack and Rex raced through the valley, the sound of the Vitheri hunters clicking and calling behind them. They ducked behind a large rock formation, both breathing hard. "We need to circle back to camp," Jack whispered, checking his communication device. There was no signal in this part of the valley. Rex's ears suddenly perked up. He turned toward a ridge above them, his body tense. Jack followed his gaze and saw the predator from the night before, watching them from the rocks. Its skin had changed color to match the stone, making it almost invisible. "Great. Caught between alien hunters and that thing," Jack muttered. The predator moved along the ridge, keeping pace with them, but not attacking. It seemed more interested in watching than hunting. Jack realized it was following the Vthuri, not them. "That's why it attacked their habitat," he said to Rex. "It's hunting them, not us." A plan formed in Jack's mind. It was risky, but it might be their only chance to show the Vthuri that Rex wasn't their enemy. "Come on, boy," Jack said, leading Rex toward a narrow canyon. "We need to draw both the hunters and that creature to the same place." They moved quickly but quietly. Jack had studied the valley maps before the expedition and knew this canyon opened into a small clearing surrounded by high walls. It was the perfect spot for his plan. When they reached the clearing, Jack knelt beside Rex. "I need you to wait here," he said, looking into the dog's intelligent eyes. "When I give the signal, I need you to do your protection routine, like we practiced." Rex seemed to understand, sitting calmly as Jack climbed partway up the canyon wall to hide behind a rock outcropping. From there, he could see both the canyon entrance and the ridge where the predator had been following. He didn't have to wait long. The Vthuri hunting party appeared at the canyon entrance. They moved cautiously, their weapons ready. When they spotted Rex sitting alone in the clearing, they spread out in a half circle, their weapons pointed at the dog. "Hold position," Jack whispered to Rex through their training bond. The lead Vthuri stepped forward. "The beast is cornered," it said to the others. "Prepare to eliminate the threat." As they raised their weapons, Jack saw movement on the ridge above. The predator was there, its body tensed to spring. It had followed the hunting party, just as Jack had hoped. The moment the predator leaped down toward the Vthuri, Jack shouted, "Rex, protect." Rex exploded into action. Instead of running away, he charged straight toward the Vthuri. The aliens, surprised by this, fired their weapons. Blue energy blasts hit the ground near Rex, but the dog was too fast, dodging between the shots. Then the aliens realized the real threat. The predator landed among them, scattering the hunting party. One Vthuri fell, its leg caught in the creature's jaws. Rex reached them just as the predator was about to deliver a killing bite. He slammed into the creature's side, forcing it to release the injured alien. The predator hissed and turned to face this new challenger. Jack scrambled down from his hiding place and ran to the fallen Vthuri. "Don't shoot," he yelled to the others who were aiming at both Rex and the predator. "Let Rex handle it." The predator and Rex circled each other. Despite being smaller, Rex showed no fear. He barked and lunged, forcing the predator to back up. Years of training allowed Rex to keep the creature's attention fixed on him, away from the vulnerable aliens. The other Vthuri watched in confusion. Their translator devices struggled to make sense of what they were seeing. "The smaller beast protects us," one asked. "How is this possible?" Jack helped the injured alien to stand. "That's what he's trained to do. He's not a wild animal. He's my partner." The predator made a final lunge at Rex. The dog dodged and counterattacked, his teeth finding purchase on the creature's leg. The predator shrieked and pulled away, limping badly. With a final hiss, it retreated, climbing back up the canyon wall and disappearing over the ridge. Rex returned to Jack's side, his mission completed. He sat calmly, looking up at the Vthuri with what almost seemed like pride. The aliens lowered their weapons, their body language showing confusion and uncertainty. The one Jack had helped stared at Rex with its compound eyes reflecting the sunlight. "This creature served as a defender," it said slowly. "It risked itself for beings not of its kind." "That's what companions do," Jack said, placing his hand on Rex's head. That's what he is, my companion. The walk back to camp was slow and tense. The injured Catheri leaned on one of its companions, its leg damaged from the predator's bite. Jack and Rex led the way, with the other aliens following at a careful distance. When they reached the camp, they found Olivia and Alan arguing with Kavol, the lead Catheri scientist. "Where have you been?" Olivia called when she saw Jack. Then she noticed the hunting party and the injured alien. "What happened?" "They tried to hunt Rex," Jack explained. "But we ran into that predator again. Rex protected them." Tuvol stepped forward, its antennae quivering with agitation. "You sent hunters after the human's creature," it asked the leader of the hunting party. "We believed it was dangerous," the hunter replied. "But we were wrong. It saved Vritik from the true predator." Alan helped the injured Catheri into their habitat, where it could receive medical care. Jack noticed that the aliens were now looking at Rex with different compound eyes. There was still fear, but also confusion and curiosity. "We must contact Ambassador Sklar," Tkivol said. "This situation requires guidance." While the Catheri repaired their communication equipment, which had been damaged in the previous night's attack, Jack checked Rex for injuries. The dog had a small cut on his shoulder, but was otherwise unhurt. "You did good, boy," Jack said, cleaning the wound. "Really good." Olivia sat beside them. "So they were hunting him. I knew they were scared of him, but that's extreme." "They don't understand what he is," Jack replied. "They've never had companion animals. To them, Rex looks like just another predator." Within an hour, the Catheri had established contact with their ship in orbit around the planet. Ambassador Sklar listened to reports from both sides before addressing the humans through the translator. "This is a serious cultural misunderstanding," the ambassador said. "In our society, all predatory creatures are considered dangerous and uncontrollable. The concept of a pet or companion animal does not exist in our language or thinking." "But now you've seen what Rex can do," Jack argued. "He's trained. He protects. He's not just some wild animal." The ambassador's compound eyes fixed on Rex, who sat calmly beside Jack. "Indeed, our hunting party reports behavior that contradicts everything we know about predator species. This requires study." To Jack's surprise, the ambassador then approached Rex, stopping just out of reach. Rex looked up at the alien but made no aggressive moves. "May I observe it more closely?" Sklar asked. "His name is Rex, and yes, you can," Jack said. "He won't hurt you." Ambassador Sklar moved closer, its upper limbs extended slightly. Rex remained still, though his eyes never left the alien. When the ambassador was just a foot away, Rex did something unexpected. He slowly extended his paw, a trick Jack had taught him for greeting people. The Catheri jerked back in surprise, then leaned forward again with what seemed like curiosity. "What is this behavior?" "It's called a handshake," Jack explained. "It's how Rex says hello." After a moment's hesitation, the ambassador extended one slender limb. Rex's paw touched it briefly before returning to the ground. The simple contact seemed to astonish all the Catheri watching. "In all our history," Sklar said, "we have never experienced peaceful contact with a predator species. This changes much of what we believed about such creatures." Over the next few hours, Jack explained more about dogs, their history with humans, and how they had evolved from wolves to become working partners and companions. The Catheri listened with growing interest, occasionally asking questions that revealed how alien the concept was to them. As night fell, Ambassador Sklar made an announcement. "We will return to the research station tomorrow. This dog must be studied properly, and we must reconsider many of our assumptions." "And what about the hunting party?" Jack asked, still angry about the attack. "They tried to kill Rex." "They acted according to our understanding at the time," Sklar replied. "But that understanding was incomplete. We have much to learn from each other, it seems." Jack nodded, but kept his hand on Rex's head protectively. The Futhuri had accepted that Rex wasn't an enemy, but trust would take longer to build. Tonight, he would keep Rex close, just in case. What none of them realized was that their troubles weren't over. The predator that had attacked them was still out there, nursing its wounds and watching the camp. And it wasn't alone. Everyone in the camp was asleep except for Jack, who sat outside his tent with Rex. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Rex felt it too, his ears constantly shifting, listening to the night sounds of the valley. "What is it, boy?" Jack whispered. "They're still out there, aren't they?" As if answering, Rex stood up, his body tense. A low growl rumbled in his throat. Jack reached for the pulse rifle nearby. Suddenly, dark shapes moved at the edge of the camp. Not one predator, but three. They had surrounded the camp, their scaled bodies shifting colors to blend with the darkness. Jack hit the alarm button on his communicator. Lights flashed across the camp as both humans and Futhuri were awakened to the danger. "Predators. 3 of them," Jack shouted. Rex barked loudly, placing himself between the nearest creature and the camp. The Futhuri emerged from their habitat, weapons ready. Olivia and Alan rushed from their tents, grabbing emergency equipment. The largest predator charged toward the Futhuri habitat. Jack realized they were using the same hunting strategy as before, targeting the aliens specifically. He aimed the pulse rifle and fired, striking the ground near the creature. It paused, but didn't retreat. "They're not backing down this time," Alan said, joining Jack with another weapon. Ambassador Skiller moved to the front of the Futhuri group. "These creatures hunt in packs. They have marked us as prey." Rex suddenly bolted from Jack's side, racing toward one of the predators. Jack's heart jumped to his throat. Rex, no. But the dog wasn't attacking recklessly. He stopped halfway between the camp and the predator, barking in a pattern Jack recognized from their training. Rex was creating a distraction, drawing the creature's attention to him instead of the more vulnerable aliens. The predators hesitated, confused by this new tactic. Then, as one, they turned toward Rex. "He's drawing them away," Jack realized. "We need to work together now." To his surprise, Ambassador Sklar stepped forward. "What must we do?" Jack quickly explained his plan. The Futhuri nodded in understanding, their earlier fear of Rex now replaced with a kind of respect. As Rex continued his controlled retreat, leading the predators in a circle around the camp, the humans and Futhuri moved into position. When the largest predator passed between 2 large rocks, Jack gave the signal. Now, energy blasts from the Futhuri weapons and pulses from the human rifles hit the rocks on either side of the predator. The stones cracked and fell, trapping the creature underneath. It shrieked in pain and surprise. Rex immediately changed tactics, charging toward the second predator with Jack close behind. The Futhuri hunters moved with surprising coordination alongside them. Together, human, dog, and aliens drove the second predator into a narrow gap where it couldn't maneuver. The third predator, seeing its packmates captured, tried to escape up the valley wall. Olivia and 2 Futhuri cut off its path with well-placed shots. Surrounded, the creature hissed in defeat and lowered itself to the ground. When the sun rose, the humans and Futhuri stood together, the 3 predators securely contained in force field traps provided by the alien technology. "These will be the first live specimens of this species to be studied," Tuvol said with excitement. Jack knelt beside Rex, checking him for injuries. "You were amazing, boy," he said, hugging the dog tightly. Rex wagged his tail, clearly pleased with himself. Ambassador Skiller approached them. "Your companion has taught us something important," the alien said. "On our world, we exterminated all predators, seeing them only as threats. Perhaps this was a mistake." "Not all predators can be companions," Jack said, "but understanding them is better than fearing them." When they returned to the research station a day later, the news of what had happened had already spread. Rex became something of a celebrity, both among humans and Futhuri. The aliens requested permission to observe him, to learn how humans had turned a predator into a protector. 6 months later, Jack watched with amusement as Ambassador Skiller carefully offered a treat to Rex. The dog gently took it from the alien's claw-like hand without any fear. "We have begun a program on our homeworld," Sklar told Jack. "There are small predator species that might, with proper guidance, become companions like Rex. It won't be easy," Jack warned. "It took thousands of years for wolves to become dogs." "We are patient," the ambassador replied, "and we have much to learn from your species." Jack smiled as Rex leaned against his leg. What had started as a misunderstanding had become a bridge between two very different civilizations, and it had all happened because aliens had tried to kill a beast, not knowing he was a human's best friend.